a free souvenir glass. Grab the whole crew and pair it with Taco Night on Mondays or Whiskey Wednesdays. Upside Bar and Lounge at 29th and Pine Lake.
Are you looking to upgrade or improve the garage door on your home? This is Cameron Hall of Doors Plus. At Doors Plus, we guarantee to offer a wide selection of options from 5 leading garage door manufacturers as we deliver a free estimate, exact measurements, and rapid installation with a 3 to 5 week time frame. When you choose Doors Plus for your residential garage door needs, you'll work with our experienced technicians and be ensured that your new door seamlessly complements your home. Give us a call at 402-590-5800 or visit us online at doorsplusllc.com. Doors Plus, garage doors, and more.
Find the ultimate sports bar experience at Big Ten Sports Bar and Grill. Big definitely describes the Big Ten House Nachos, topped with pulled pork, barbecue sauce, and much more. Enjoy char-buffed chicken wings, coated in flavorful sauce, delicious pizza, and half-pound burgers made to cure your cravings. The bar features 16 different taps, including local Nebraska brews. There's a good wine selection and the signature Big Ten teenies served with champagne. Big Ten Sports Bar and Grill. Visit big10lnk.com.
It takes a great game plan to win a football game each week, and right now, it's time to plan a trip to get a new car at Mullen Motors. Just like on the football field, there's a wall of defense on the way to Mullen Motors. 48th Street is under construction from Layton all the way to Cornhusker Highway. But the lot at Mullen Motors is full of tons of great vehicles to drive home this fall for the ultimate touchdown. Mullen Motors, still open through road construction at 48th and Walker.
No taglines, just quality vehicles. Mullen Motors.
Is your backyard ready for fun with friends and family this fall? GE Landscape Supply has pavers and boulders, which are a great accent for any landscaping project. And you can find them at 6701 Cornhusker Highway. GE Landscape Supply sells to homeowners and contractors with a vast selection of landscaping and construction materials. And don't forget, they deliver anywhere, nearby or far away. Stop by at 6701 Cornhusker Highway from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday. Go to gelandscapesupply.com for more info or call 402-467-1627.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. Jay Foreman Postgame Show. Sponsored by Tanner's Bar and Grill, Vinny Kreekak, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, and Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical. On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Fool us once, shame on you. Fool us twice, shame on us. Fool us 3 times? I don't even know who the shame's on anymore. Fool us 29 times? Shame on the whole state. 93.7 The Ticket's post-game coverage of Nebraska's 24-17 loss continues. I'm Austin Norman. He is Jake Bachov, and we'll take you through the next hour, and the phone lines are officially open for you. If you want to verbalize and vocalize your thoughts, let us know at 402-464-5685. And, of course, the Starter Human text line is open for you at that same number, as are the Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter streams if you were watching on there before. The previous stream got ended. We did start a new one here for this next hour. So stick with us. We got plenty to come. Plenty more to say about Nebraska's loss to Wisconsin. Well, Bach, 3 years in a row now, Nebraska's played Wisconsin closer, played them tougher. This was a different kind of brutal, but the same kind of brutal by the end. Nebraska jumps out to a 14-0 lead to explosive plays that we mentioned in our little interim segments there during the game. But ultimately, Wisconsin finds a rhythm on offense in the middle 2 quarters. Nebraska gets nothing, only 25 yards in the third quarter. Near heroics from Chubba Purdy and the team at the end. It counts. You get the field goal. That's a good start. And then the overtime bug bit Nebraska again. They still haven't scored in overtime, let alone won in overtime, since Bo Pelini's final game.
There's a lot of things going on since Bo Pelini's final game that they'd like to go back to, but man, there was once when the Yankees were beating up Pedro, he said, "Just tip the cap and call the Yankees my daddy." I think after 10 straight losses, over a decade of losing to Wisconsin, this game, I kind of talked all week and tried to gauge the fan base to try to understand, is this still a rival? Do you guys still have a feeling for this? And I just kind of forgot what this feeling is, even though it's so common, I suppose, the Nebraska losing to Wisconsin feeling. just feels kind of helpless. It brings you back to, a time when Nebraska would have losses and it would just shock you. When I was younger, you'd have 2 or 3 losses a year and it'd, be the end of your weekend and, obviously be a talking point for quite some time. And you just never thought it would get this out of hand. And of course, we've been saying that. And this isn't to pile up on Matt Rule. This is his first year here, or this team. He mentioned how some of his guys were 8 to 12 years old when this streak started. But as a Nebraska fan, 10 straight to Wisconsin hurts. And what hurts even more is these Wisconsin teams aren't good anymore. The start of that stretch was like, well, yeah, they just can't stop the run. They got all pro running backs coming out to shoot. Braylon Allen played well, and he's a heck of a running back, but he was dinged up. But I don't know. I feel especially bad about this loss than I do the others of the season. And maybe it's, also the realization that it's going to be tough to get to a bowl game. They're kind of squandering away that opportunity. You got the Big Ten West champ coming in, but I don't know. I with these Wisconsin losses, it's easier for me just to pile those on previous Wisconsin losses and get myself quite down about myself for wearing Husker red.
We'll get into this as more of a big picture discussion later on, but think about entering November after a perfect October. You lose to Michigan at the end of September. You win your 3 games in October with the bye week. November comes, you're sitting at 5-3 as a Nebraska team. You just need one of them against the Michigan State team down its coach. Feels like it's just playing out the string. Against a Maryland team that lost 4 straight coming into your building. Against a Wisconsin team that had the same record as you and lost to an opponent that you beat. And now you have your toughest test, the team that I picked to win the Big Ten West at the beginning of the year, Iowa, coming to town. But we'll talk more about that later. Let's go to the phones. The Honda of Lincoln hotline, again, open and available for you guys here throughout the show. I believe we have, is that Jim online? Jim, how's it going?
Yeah, hey, how's it going?
Could be better. Wish we had a Husker win. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hey, I wanted to point out that on that timeout we called, we were down by 3. It was at the end of the game before overtime. Instead of calling timeout immediately after the play was over, we let 7 seconds run off the clock. That hurt us. We could have had another opportunity. And I think it kind of mentally deflated our team a little bit. When you have the adrenaline flowing and you're playing the game, you call timeout, you get your stuff together, and you go play the next play. We stood around, and I could see it. I could feel it. Through the TV, I could feel it. They just kind of deflated, and then they did nothing after that. And then we had to kick a field goal. I think we could have probably scored had we kept that rhythm going. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep, Jim, thanks.
And not only that, but it would have given us an extra opportunity. We could have run one more play had we done that.
Yep, Jim, thanks for the call. Appreciate the thoughts. Could have run 1 or 2 more plays if you take that timeout right away. Absolutely. I was absolutely on board with taking the timeout earlier, but here's the rationale for not taking that timeout. Let's say you don't convert on that 3rd down. Okay, let's say you're stopped short. You have to kick the field goal anyways. If you've taken that timeout with like 40 seconds to go, you run on 3rd down. Wisconsin probably calls a timeout with 36 seconds left. You kick the field goal. Let's say it goes in. Wisconsin has 33 seconds left instead of 4 or 5 seconds left. We talk about Nebraska last week, only shooting for the best case scenario was scoring a touchdown. That's all they thought they were going to do. And now, we went after him for it. Why weren't you conservative? Why didn't you play it safe and just take the field goal? And this week, the conversation is, well, why didn't you take the timeout sooner? Why weren't you more aggressive in going for the touchdown? And here's the thing. I was on board with going for the touchdown both times. But understand it from a coach's perspective, right? I think they did learn the lesson from last week, from previous weeks, of we're imagining the best case. We have no reason to believe the best case won't happen because we have faith and trust in our team. But at the same time, as soon as we call the play and they're out there, it's out of our hands. Sometimes things happen. So you do have to manage for the worst case scenario in some degree. Maybe Nebraska and Matt Rule didn't strike the right balance tonight. Maybe not the way I would have preferred it, but I can at least see the thought process.
Yeah, you could see it there, and ultimately you got 3 points out of it. But I mean, I agree too. I mean, they started that drive with like 3.5 minutes, and it was basically their 2-minute drill. Now, this is not a 2-minute drill offense, even with Chubba Purdy, providing a little bit of a spark tonight. They just don't have the pieces for it. It hasn't been all year. But both 2-minute drills to end the half, I think time management could be worked on from the coaching staff side of things. But I definitely think too, like, I get what you're saying is you'd leave some time left on the clock. But I think, especially the way that game was going, Nebraska was having trouble getting anything sustainable going. They finally had a drive, and they did let about 30 seconds off the clock in total with a lot of timeouts left. They could have just used it a little bit differently there. So, Emmett Johnson was running well on that drive. I would have liked them tried to kind of strike a little bit, but at the same time too, I don't think they wanted to get too close because they almost he almost used a word that DP doesn't want us to use. They almost lost all lost the first half. I mean, they almost learned from the first half. Let's not take this down to 1 second, or even if you have 7 seconds and Purdy floats a ball out there, you might lose your opportunity to kick the field goal. So it was a little bit conservative, and I think that they can work on play calling a little bit and time management certainly. But we can hear from Coach Rule. He's actually asked about that drive and play calling leading up to the field goal to force overtime.
Or that we got into field goal range first, you know what I mean? I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to get down. We were going to take one shot at the end zone, kind of akin to last week. I felt good about the kick. I wanted to make sure he got in range to make the kick, give him a chance to take a shot at the end zone and go from there. So, looking back, maybe should have called that earlier. So maybe we had 2 shots at the end zone, but I know a lot of people ask me why I didn't just run the ball last week and kick it last week. So, I thought we had a good play there. Billy, he gave Billy a chance, kind of the same thing we did before the first half, and then kicked it. So, we got big, ran the ball because we wanted to make sure that we were within range, and then got the first down. But that was really kind of the thought process.
I also don't know. I also get the shot attempts there. They don't have back end zone receivers. I'm sorry. I mean, Malachi went up and got one today in midfield. Maybe he could become that, but I don't even know if that's the play I would give. I mean, because neither of those were particularly close, and I was hoping and thinking that part of the idea was just kind of throwing those away.
So plays like those you have to set up. You have to run certain actions or run certain plays to make sure there's only one safety in the middle of the field. You have to distract him, and then you have to throw that one-on-one ball up to the back corner of the end zone to a taller receiver. Alex Bullock, not small. Don't know if I love the leaping ability as much as Malachi Coleman. Or say a Thomas Fidone, right? Can you keep him in, hit a little tight end pop pass, let him rumble after the catch to get you a little bit closer? Can you post him up, right? He's taller than Wisconsin's linebackers. Can you take that shot over the middle of the field, get closer, and then look for your big tight end when it's a shorter throw? Just put it out of reach of everyone else where either he jumps and grabs it or it's out of the back of the end zone. Those are the only 2 places for that ball. There are absolutely certain ways that Nebraska could have gone about that at the end of the first half and at the end of the fourth quarter. I want to touch on something else Jim said, though. He mentioned the offense and that not taking that time out till late. You could just feel the deflation through the TV is what he said. Maybe Nebraska scores a touchdown if they stay in rhythm. I get what you're saying, Jim, and I feel you. Maybe that's the case. I'll throw this out here, Bach. Maybe have more than 25 total yards of offense in the third quarter.
Yeah,
maybe have a single sustained drive across the second and third quarters. Nebraska went from its first 2 drives putting up 14 points until its final drive of regulation to put 3 points on the board. You didn't score in the middle, 51 minutes or 50 minutes and 57 seconds, give or take. That's just more of the same from this offense. So maybe the offense did feel deflated at the end with the timing, but you had 2 other quarters to work with where you could have done something, anything at all. And that's where the big plays in the first half were fun, but they almost feel more lucky than planned in some degree. And there's not a game breaker on this Nebraska offense that you can go to consistently. And like we mentioned during the game too, the consistency isn't there for the team. So there's not always that spreading the ball around. Hey, this didn't work. Let's try this option. See if we can get 5 yards and at least stay on schedule. Wisconsin had energy in the middle 2 quarters. That defense was playing fired up. It wasn't a vintage Wisconsin defense all night. It hasn't been a vintage Wisconsin defense all season, but Wisconsin's defense dominated those middle 2 quarters, gave its offense a chance.
Yeah, and again, I think that the spark was there from Purdy. I think even the announcer said it on his big scramble. I don't know if the Wisconsin players definitely underestimated his speed. I mean, because you could tell there were guys that if they were running full go would have been able to catch up to Purdy, but I think they just figured that he wasn't that fast or that somebody else was going to catch up to him or whatever. And that happens from time to time in games. But I guess what I'm ultimately trying to say is as Heinrich Harburg played and teams scouted him, he became easier to prepare for. Now, he also kind of got banged up, but I think that there's kind of something to be said about that in a game just setting as well, is that Wisconsin, and this happens with Nebraska's defense, this happens with all types of defenses. You know, you take a drive or two, kind of see the wrinkles they're throwing at you, make your adjustments, and go from there and become better, become stronger. And that's what Wisconsin did. Is what Purdy and what Nebraska was doing at the beginning was not working throughout the middle couple of quarters. It was very hard to find somebody open. I thought Purdy did a pretty good job, and I know that Jay and Nick already touched on. He's got to start the Iowa game, and I think so too. He did a good job because he didn't turn the ball over, and a lot of those times, they did a lot of what we asked of them tonight and came up short. But they did I think they did improve in some of those areas. And Purdy was part of that, was just kind of scrambling, getting out of the pocket. Didn't necessarily break it any, too many, got a few first downs. But even that's fine, better than like forcing it or trying to throw it in a bad spot and having this giant turnover that changes the game. But certainly I think there is something to Wisconsin kind of caught up to what Nebraska was doing. And Nebraska's offense was pretty ineffective for a big portion of that game. And in fact, obviously finished outscored 24-3 outside of those first 2 touchdowns. So it was fun for half a quarter. I was thinking, hey, let's get payback on them. Let's beat them 63-14 or whatever. And
70-31. Why not?
Yeah, get that payback. But that was short lived. And I think you can insert Purdy into the lineup. I think it can look a little bit better than it has so far this season, but I don't think it's going to be drastically better, not to the point that we saw in the first quarter.
I'm with you. Let's go back to the Honda of Lincoln hotline. I believe we have John waiting on the line. John, how are you? What you got for us?
Good, guys. How are you?
Yeah, again, could be better, but we're hanging in there. What do you got for us?
I think we have a quarterback now. I think the controversy has been, should be done. And we didn't tackle well enough tonight. I mean, we had opportunities to turn the game. We could add a couple sacks we didn't get. The inability in between our first 2 drives to the end of the game where we just been stagnant. We always have times where we just go stagnant, and we got to stop doing that or we're not going to win Friday. So I got, guys.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Touching on quarterback real quick. Yes, I'm with you, Bach. I'm with what Jay and Nick are saying. Chuba Purdy seems like he earned the right to be the starter against Iowa. That doesn't mean anything long term. He's earned the right, earned the opportunity. I'd say opportunity more so than right. He's earned the opportunity, in my opinion, to start on Friday, but that says nothing about he's the guy for next year. Hey, quarterback question is absolutely solved. He looked good in his last drive against Maryland, and then he looked much more in command and in control. Think about the growth we've saw from Chuba Purdy from Illinois and Minnesota last year, how hurried and rushed he was. Even the spring game where he wasn't all that effective to today. He looked calm. He looked in control. Could have thrown that one interception. It was close on the sideline, a little risky, but he got away with it. The jump ball at the back of the end zone, maybe not the ideal throw, maybe a little bit too much air underneath it. But those are things you can teach. You can't necessarily teach the calm and being in control nearly as much as just getting those reps. He looks more comfortable, and I think that's a big step in the right direction for Chuba.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I do. I mean, I have a lot more excitement, I suppose, about this Iowa game than I would if Heinrich Harburg, or we saw more of the same, basically. I think that there is an opportunity to get the upset victory and go bowling on Friday. And a lot of that is because of a belief that Chuba Purdy can just make a few plays. But that's all it is, and that's all we're asking for. But it is just, being able to score 24 points per game rather than being stuck at 13 or, whatever it is. And having all these turnovers. Nebraska didn't turn over the ball too much today. They had the one turnover on the final play.
That was it.
That's just desperation, obviously, at the end. So I mean, I think that there are improvements here today. Obviously, you took a big step backward in penalties. Penalties really hurt Nebraska. He mentioned missed tackles, a lot of missed opportunities. But again, too, it's interesting because just the way that the narrative can be written here is that the defense didn't play their best game. They had a lot of missed tackles, and they did. But man, did they step up over and over and over again and give the offense more opportunities. 4th and 1s. I mean, these were not, this wasn't like, a lot of these were like up against it, like 4th and 1s and 3rd and 3s. And they also had big plays where they allowed scrambles, and Mordecai had his success. So it wasn't the best performance by the defense, but I do think that they were pretty impressive. Like Sanford coming up for that hit in 3rd and 1. They had a few 4th down
then the
stops.
stop right after that.
Yeah, I mean, they at least gave their team some opportunities there. But obviously just coming up short. And you can hear Matt Rule. I mean, the whole post game was about, players being sad and upset and feeling like they gave it their best shot. And obviously part of that is the emotion, just a wave of going from, the first quarter high of, hey, we're finally clicking. And we just got to finish this and we can go bowling, to just that loss and just basically trying to hold on to something that wasn't there, I suppose.
Absolutely. Let's go to the Honda of Lincoln hotline once again, 402-464-5685, the number. If you have any thoughts, you can call in on the Honda of Lincoln hotline, text on the Starter Heyman text line. William is on the line. William, how are you? What are your thoughts on the game?
How's it going? Thoughts on the game? I thought I usually get really upset every time I watch their games lately, but this time I wasn't too upset. I mean, the tackling was kind of, we overshot some gaps on defense, but I just thought it was a tough fought game, heartbreaking game. We got one more shot. But if we would have kicked the field goal against Maryland, we would not be having this discussion. We would be talking about what bowl we would be playing in. So it still goes back on Satterfield. So Nebraska needs to make a bowl game, and all is forgiven. If not, it's always going to go back to Satterfield and his questionable situational play calling. Go Big Red. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, William. Let's go back even further. I had Minnesota on the ropes in week 1. Could have banked that one. Skip Colorado, skip Michigan. Guess what? Had Michigan State in a great opportunity. You let that one slip. And then you let Maryland slip. And then you let Wisconsin slip. Just like you let Tanner Mordecai slip out of your grasp so many times tonight. This is my frustration. I don't necessarily want to say with the defense, Bach, but for the defense. They hold Wisconsin on 2 4th downs early in the game, and then they give up the backbreaker late. They have Wisconsin in 3rd and longs. They do their job on 1st and 2nd down, and then they let him scramble. This defense so many times is one play away from just planting its flag in the ground and saying, yes, we are dominating this game. We are taking over this game. We are carrying our team to victory, but it's just one play short where you hold Wisconsin under 4 yards per carry. Think about when Nebraska first came to the Big Ten. You hold Wisconsin under 4 yards a carry, you're rejoicing.
Oh, yeah.
There's a party down O Street. Wisconsin, throws for 160 yards in a game, only 1 touchdown. Good job. That's really not that much. You don't turn the ball over throughout the course of the first, 60 minutes of the game until your last play of the game. Good for you, Nebraska. You did it. But this whole team, one play, one moment short, now 6 times this season.
Yeah, and it makes you feel obviously pretty bad about the Huskers' history. Now Matt Rule starting 1-4 in 1 possession games. I think that's part of the burn here too. Is you're tired of you've as a Husker fan, you've lived through that entire Scott Frost era. To continue into it for the first year of Matt Rule is frustrating too. But I think that defense too. I mean, and I talk with Terrell Farley all the time about it, and they talked in the post game too about creating turnovers, and that's how a defense goes from good to great. But I think there's also just that element, and this is not a knock against the guys because they've had a heck of a year and they've played their butts off and they've put Nebraska in positions to be in these games. But they still don't quite have that playmaker, right? There's not the Terrell Farley, there's not the Levante David, but specifically on defense, it's nice to get those stops and be solid up front, and they are. And again, I feel bad for even talking down on them because they've had such a good year. And Tony White's first year, it's been fantastic. But part of that too is just they've taken kind of this mostly the same personnel, moved some different guys, and different guys have kind of risen up to the occasion and played better. But I think they're still kind of, and they've got a few guys in contention for it. They're still kind of missing that playmaker, all Big Ten type of stratosphere. And hopefully they can add that in the next couple of years, and that can make the difference in these games. But, that's just my thought is maybe one or two of those guys out there could take this deep, because we always talk about the turnovers, and maybe it would go with those guys as going from good to great, because I think in the annals of Nebraska history, there's so many great defenses, and I think this is a good defense, not a great defense.
Ty Robinson's close to that. Nash Hutmaker has had moments of that. Javen Wright had a really good game last week. Omar Brown has shown moments, but again, when Nebraska needed a spark in the second and third quarter, it wasn't really there. It just didn't happen for those guys. Made plays early, made plays late. This week, it was the middle 30 minutes that came back to bite Nebraska. We'll keep talking about it here on 93.7 The Ticket. We'll be with you for another 35 minutes or so, take you up till Sunday when we can officially turn the page and get on to Iowa week. He's Bach. I'm Austin. More 93.7 The Ticket post-game coverage comes your way in just a minute.
Elway Power Sports at Lincoln will have you scoring big on savings with up to $3,000 off CF Moto side-by-sides and ATVs. Whether you're looking for a work-tough U-Force or a performance-ready Z-Force, CF Moto has a machine made for you all under one roof at our new 27th and I-80 location. And don't miss our Black Saturday sales event on November 25th with doorbusters and specials throughout the store. Visit our website, elwaypslincoln.com for more details.
Are you looking to upgrade or improve the garage door on your home? This is Cameron Hall of Doors Plus. At Doors Plus, we guarantee to offer a wide selection of options from 5 leading garage door manufacturers as we deliver a free estimate, exact measurements, and rapid installation with a 3 to 5 week time frame. When you choose Doors Plus for your residential garage door needs, you'll work with our experienced technicians and be ensured that your new door seamlessly complements your home. Give us a call at 402-590-5800 or visit us online at DoorsPlusLLC.com. Doors Plus, garage doors, and more.
Lincoln Federal Savings Bank, personal banking like you remember.
Home. It's more than a place, it's a feeling. This is Eric Bertrand with Lincoln Federal Savings Bank. If you're looking for a place to call home, call me. Let's review your financing options and get you into the home of your dreams. Proudly serving Husker fans.
Personal banking like you remember.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
The holidays are drawing closer, and there's not many things better than getting the gift of relaxation. Not just for yourself, but for anyone in your life. During November, for every service you get at the Body Shop, you get entered into their drawing for a free massage gift certificate equal to your last service. This goes all the way to the week before Christmas, so book your appointments now at thebodyshoplincoln.com and treat yourself and loved ones today. The Body Shop at 48th and A.
When you were a kid, clubs were cool. Robotics club and space club and stuff like that. But what do adults get? Book clubs and quilting clubs? Nah, forget that. How about margarita clubs and old-fashioned clubs? Get to Upside Bar and Lounge for the best clubs in town. Try all 10 varieties of Upside margaritas or old fashions and take home a free souvenir glass. Grab the whole crew and pair it with taco night on Mondays or whiskey Wednesdays. Upside Bar and Lounge at 29th and Pine Lake.
So I switched my insurance to State Farm, and get this. I talked to an actual State Farm agent who lives in my actual town. And get this. My actual agent in my actual town gave me actual help with the coverage I needed. And get this. My actual agent in my actual town who gave me actual help actually knows my name. And get this. They actually say it's called service.
Call your local State Farm agent, Vinny Kreekak, at 402-474-1173.
If you're not going to Memorial Stadium for a home game and don't have any travel plans for away games, there's a great place in Omaha to catch the action, the Inner Rail Food Hall. There's plenty of space. The Backstretch Bar has amazing game specials on game days. $15 Blue Moon and Bud Light pitchers, $6 margaritas, and $6 Moscow Mules. And if you're hungry, take in some of their great options from their game day pizza specials. Do football game day right in the Inner Rail Food Hall in Exarban Village in Omaha.
Nutrition Authority invites you to try Attack, which is an exciting pre-workout for athletes and gym enthusiasts who want the most out of their workouts. Attack can only be found at Nutrition Authority. Remember, when you want results, the solution is simple. Nutrition Authority. Stop in or check us out at mynutritionauthority.com.
It takes a great game plan to win a football game each week, and right now, it's time to plan a trip to get a new car at Mullen Motors. Just like on the football field, there's a wall of defense on the way to Mullen Motors. 48th Street is under construction from Layton all the way to Cornhusker Highway. But the lot at Mullen Motors is full of tons of great vehicles to drive home this fall for the ultimate touchdown. Mullen Motors, still open through road construction at 48th and Walker.
No taglines, just quality vehicles. Mullen Motors.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now, they've raised wages again, and they're hiring for production operators at $24.62 per hour, which grows to $28.97 per hour within 3 years. Skilled trade positions now start at $33.36 per hour, with opportunities to make more based on certifications. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates, with increased bonuses and vacation for new hires. To learn more or apply, go to continentaljobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Jay Foreman Postgame Show. Sponsored by Tanner's Bar and Grill, Vinny Kreekak, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, and Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical. On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Back here on 93.7 The Ticket's post-game coverage, Nebraska loses to Wisconsin 24-17. That's now 10 straight Nebraska has lost against the Badgers. I'm Austin Norman. He's Jake Bachhoven. Bach, Nebraska volleyball exercised at least some of its Wisconsin demons earlier this year. They get that win at Pinnacle Bank Arena. Nebraska football not able to do the same. You asked, is Wisconsin even considered a rival anywhere? I don't think Wisconsin ever was. I think the Big Ten wanted it to become an important series. At one point when it was cross-divisional, and then when they split it into East and West divisions, Nebraska didn't hold up its end of the bargain. Now, the games have been closer recently. You lose by one score in 2016, and then the last three all by one score. So maybe things are evening out a little bit a la Nebraska and Iowa. But Nebraska-Iowa has bad blood between it. Nebraska-Wisconsin really doesn't. Camp Randall is a house of horrors. Wisconsin has done some not nice things to Nebraska in Memorial Stadium, too. And I'm bummed. Coming into the Big Ten, I wanted Wisconsin and Nebraska to be rivals. Wisconsin was good. Nebraska, was basically at their level, if not a little higher in the Big 12 coming over. I was really hoping Nebraska-Wisconsin would bubble into something worth fighting for, especially with Barry Alvarez in charge up at Wisconsin. It just hasn't. Across multiple coaches for Nebraska, across multiple coaches for Wisconsin, it's been the Badgers.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I think there was some juice to it early. I mean, the flip phone comments from Corey Clement. I mean, there was some fun, but it never really was fun on the field for Nebraska. And it's just gotten to a point. I mean, Wisconsin's not the only team that's been beating up Nebraska, obviously under Mike Riley and Scott Frost. So it kind of started to kind of blend together. And just recently, it just, when Wisconsin's not very good and they're still beating you, then, it gets frustrating. But it's sad to me because it was something that had a lot of momentum when they started it. When they moved from the legends and leaders to West and East, Husker fans were happy to see Wisconsin in division so that they could play them year in and year out. And they thought that could be a rivalry. But since then, Nebraska has not had a victory. They've not ever had the Freedom Trophy, which they apparently that's just a Wisconsin trophy. Nebraska's never touched it.
The traveling trophy. It travels from Camp Randall to the football facility and back.
That's right. And it's been so lopsided that when the Big Ten went to the new scheduling with all the teams coming in from the Pac-12 and they protected rivalries, they didn't even think about protecting Nebraska, Wisconsin. And again, that's one thing. The other part of it is I didn't hear a peep out of Nebraska fans. Like nobody was like, hey, wait, that's our rival. That's a trophy game. Most of us just are tired of this feeling, tired of being in this situation. And again, this is not a Wisconsin team that does their traditional grind you out and run you down. But that's what they did today to Nebraska. And it was kind of frustrating. Again, you can phrase, with different plays, you can kind of change the narrative of a game. And I think Nebraska stood up and got some fourth down stops to give Wisconsin, at least give their offense an opportunity is what I mean to say. But the way that they ran the ball, the way that Mordecai was able to scramble, the way that Allen was able to get the first downs when they needed to, and then very much so the way they scored the touchdown in overtime when he's held up at the 2 and in the Wisconsin offensive line just kind of pushes them in. That's kind of when you get to the talk of who wanted it more. And again, I don't think it's completely fair because I think Nebraska's defense did step up in a lot of those moments. But that's the lasting image that I'm going to kind of think of this game is Braylon Allen, who didn't last week carried the ball 3 times. In the first half, carried the ball like 3 times. And he didn't break away and have this big, Jonathan Taylor or Melvin Gordon type game on Nebraska. I think he only had like 60 yards. But he was just kind of there when they needed it. And then the other thing was just Tanner Mordecai. I mean, I did not expect him to hurt us as much as he did on the ground. I don't think Nebraska expected him to hurt them as much as he did. And I don't know, between those two, I would say it was probably the MVP of the game.
Tanner Mordecai went prime Clayton Thorson all over Nebraska. That's what happened. And that stinks. Braylon Allen, 22 carries for 62 yards, long of 17. But again, the 2 touchdowns end up being the backbreaker. Let's talk on the flip side of that with Nebraska's offensive line. How would you rate their performance today?
Well, compared to the last couple of weeks, I mean, what's been really nice is not that they've been just dominating and clearing guys out and returning to the pipeline of old, but they had been making steps, and more importantly, they had not been committing penalties. And today they went back where Prohaska had several. Newelly had one there at the end that kind of stung in overtime. And, so I think that's kind of glaring, and that's going to be kind of how I grade their performance. But at the same time, they did. I think you had another decent game. I mean, Purdy kind of helped with his scrambling ability. They didn't have their quarterback get shellacked too much. I don't know how many sacks they kind of finished with. And Nebraska was able to get a running game out of Purdy and at times Grant and at times Johnson. So, grading on a curve, I thought they played pretty well. Grading how you would just generally grade offensive lines, I would say it's a home game. But
first quarter, I thought was fine, held up in moments. Fourth quarter, they had to step up at the end of the game, and they did. So many times throughout the second and third quarter, though, Nebraska didn't create any push. Yeah. It's the same defensive lineman. It's the same offensive lineman. Nebraska didn't rotate that much, but you have a couple false starts. You have a couple holds thrown in there as well that weren't, brutally damaging like we've seen before, but just enough to get this offense off gear. And that, to me, Bach, is going to be the story of this Nebraska season. Regardless of who was at quarterback, regardless of who was at running back and receiver, the combinations really don't matter. So often this Nebraska has looked generally competent for decent stretches of games, but not ever for a full 60 minutes. I mean, Nebraska had the ball for 31 minutes. They controlled time of possession a little bit, had more than Wisconsin, which I guess you take. But for as good as this offense can look at times, when it's clicking and when it's humming, it kind of reminds me of Nebraska basketball, where it goes on those, 7-8 minute scoring droughts in basketball, where it's like, these are the same guys. They're running similar concepts. Why does it look so clunky now all of a sudden?
Well, and I think too, I mean, we have to admit that 2 of the scoring plays that Nebraska had on touchdown were big plays. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like they were just putting absolute bangers of drives together that were, great play calls and everything was well blocked and everything. So I think that's part of it. I I don't necessarily. I don't think with this personnel, I would expect a full game. I don't even know. I try to think about an opponent that I could think you could do that against. Again, the expectations are down for me, and it's not so much that I expect a full game. I expect them to go through their lulls. I expect them to have difficulty putting 10 to 12 play drives together. So when they kind of get it, that's when you have to capitalize on those opportunities when they are scoring. I 25 yards in a quarter is never going to be good no matter what. And so it was a frustrating and disappointing third quarter. But I think part of tonight's loss in totality, you did outgain them in total yards. You had more passing yards. You had more rushing yards. You didn't turn the ball over all that much. You ultimately lost the game in overtime. It's not like Nebraska played horribly.
No.
I think that as opposed to like a last week when you had so many turnovers, you get that feeling. This feels
Michigan
like
State where you're flat.
Yeah. This was not probably among Nebraska's worst played games. It just feels like a little bit undisciplined with the penalties coming back. And then certainly just kind of the missed opportunities over and over with sack opportunities or missed tackles that, as we talk about that defense stepping up and creating opportunities for Nebraska's offense, a lot of those felt like backbreakers as well.
Which that's another thing I think to get to. They felt like backbreakers. Good teams step up and respond, right? You give up a deflating, third down conversion or a big play, you flush it. You find a way to flush it and move on and make the next play. Where, yes, maybe Mordecai's scramble to get to 4th and 1 in overtime was the backbreaker, right? And that's unfortunate. But what about the other 3 third down conversions that Paulings had? Mm-hmm. You don't try anything new on that guy. You know where they're going to go. They just run him out there as a decoy at one point, right? And no intention to give him the ball, and you still single cover him. So maybe you read that one right. I don't know. But so many of these moments feel like backbreakers for this team. And I think we talked about this last year and the year before too, with these 1-score losses and that continuing to happen. Good teams find a way to flush it and they pick each other up, right? I get it. The defense has done most of the heavy lifting for this team, has lifted the offense up in a lot of situations. So yes, most of the blame does go on the offense to shoulder a little bit of a load. Pick the defense up when maybe it falters a little more than the defense would like it to or fans would like it to. But at the same time, next play mentality. Just move on, right? You just have to make one play. Okay, you didn't make it. You have another opportunity. Wisconsin is still at the 30-yard line. Maybe they should have been punting from their own 15-yard line, but they're only at the 30. You stop them there with a 3 and out. If they punt from their 36-yard line, you still have decent field position. But for as resilient as Nebraska was after Michigan, to go to Illinois and win, to let that spark October, there are so many moments in these games that don't have to be backbreaking that we look back and say are, just because 1 or 2 plays weren't made.
Yeah. I how did you feel? I was kind of thinking about how I felt too, is going through it, is when Wisconsin took the lead. Did you feel like that Nebraska, because it had been a while since Nebraska obviously had scored, they took all the momentum. I felt pretty bad about it once Wisconsin took the lead. Like I felt like, maybe this was turning, and maybe it was ghosts of Wisconsin Badger games past. But Nebraska did, again, I think several times step up on defense and give yourself an opportunity. Also, don't forget the 4th and 1. They went for it on their own 42 in a quick handoff to Emmett Johnson. That could be a play that if they don't get about it, we would be talking about quite a bit on this post-game show. So, I mean, they did some things right. And they came up in moments that I don't think that they allowed too many of them to necessarily be backbreakers. They had enough stops. Like, you're not going to get every 4th and 1. You're not going to be able to stop them every time. But if you can do it half the time, that's actually pretty impressive. So I don't feel like they were emotionally defeated, but I do feel like, at least from a fan watching it, once Wisconsin took the lead, it's just the momentum went so heavy from Nebraska to Wisconsin. It's not like they were ever playing not to lose, because it was the first quarter. There wasn't enough time to kind of get into that mode. But it just started to feel bad. And then the other thing is, early on in that game, they got Chubba Purdy going with short passes. And I thought, this is great. They haven't been doing this all year. They're going to get him in a rhythm. And then eventually Wisconsin figured it out, and the short passes were getting blown up. And that was part of the reason the drive stopped moving anywhere is Wisconsin kind of figured that out. And then Nebraska, I mean, just didn't have, when they did run deep routes, Wisconsin covered pretty well. So you got to remember there's also another team that's trying out there to win and do well. And I thought Wisconsin made good adjustments to what hurt them early. And then just once they figured out Nebraska's offense, they kind of went on the prowl, went on the attack, and Nebraska only had a few successful offensive drives after that.
And it's easy to say Nebraska was slow to adjust. I think that's the easy way to go. And it seems fair to say, but again, I don't know everything that goes into adjustments and what that means in the course of in the flow of a football game. Text line, I want to throw a box question to you. After Wisconsin took the lead, how did you feel? 402-464-5685. The Badgers officially take the lead with 7 minutes, 47 seconds to go in the third quarter. I'll answer the question this way, Bach. Nebraska goes up 14-0. It's fun. I'm loving it. Like, this is maybe the most fun Nebraska football has felt in a long time.
Yeah.
Like, it's Wisconsin. You're up 14-0 on me. You have two big plays. That doesn't happen for Nebraska against Wisconsin. But I had to remind myself, there's a lot of time left. There's still 51 minutes of football to go here. Be excited. Pump the brakes a little bit. That was my same reaction in the third quarter. Okay, yeah, Wisconsin with 10 points in the second quarter. They're at home. They're feeling good. The teams end up trading in the second half. They trade 3 and outs. Nebraska's defense forces one. Hey, maybe Nebraska's back in it. The offense doesn't capitalize on that. Then Wisconsin marches down the field. That was they started their own 21-yard line, go 79 yards in 10 plays. That was a very workmanlike drive, very Wisconsin type of drive. You're like, okay, Wisconsin's feeling it here. Defense needs to find a way to make something happen. But again, when they took the lead, it wasn't. My first reaction, of course, was, oh crap, here we go again. Wisconsin's rolling. Does this get out of hand? We've seen this before. But I had to remind myself, there's still 22 minutes of game left. There's still plenty of time. So as excited as I was maybe as bummed as I was. But again, just as much time as there was for Wisconsin to respond, Nebraska had opportunities. After that touchdown, Nebraska went 3 and out, gained only 1 yard. Have a 7-play, 16-yard drive. They end up punting on 3 plays for 8 yards, end up punting before the field goal drive. 9 plays, 68 yards. Nebraska had opportunities. Just like you knew Wisconsin was going to have opportunities to do that. Let's go to Walter on the Honda of Lincoln hotline. Walter, what you got for us?
Hey, man, you know what? I thought, first of all, I was kind of confused on where was Johnson, the freshman, a good chunk of that game. He showed up in the fourth quarter when we needed, some speed, I think, after Grant got hurt. And my other question was, I really thought that Wisconsin did make those adjustments. It seems like we didn't make any adjustments on offense. It looked like we were playing more or less. I don't know. I didn't think we were attacking in that third and fourth quarter like we were. And then the other thing was, I think these kids are really hurting. They got one more game left. I think they can pull it out. The fans really need to show up next Saturday. And hats off to Purdy, man. He played a great game. So I think that's our quarterback right there. That's all I want to share tonight.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the call, Walter. Thanks for listening here. 402-464-5685 if you have thoughts. I like a lot of what he had to say. Again, I'll say this on the adjustments. Within the course of the game, I don't know what goes into that, so I don't want to speak too much on it. Maybe that's a Jay Foreman question during Inside the Huddle or during Old School on Monday. But you can see Nebraska trying a wrinkle with that option game, right? They tried to run that reverse to Jalen Lloyd. Didn't seem like the time or place for it. Wisconsin wasn't biting so much. The regular option run was being successful. But there's at least a wrinkle they tried to implement there. You saw Wisconsin blow up that quick pass to Billy Kemp at one point. Is there a wrinkle you can run off of that? Can you run that inside like a tunnel screen sort of deal? Or is that just all that play is and Alex Bullock has to get the block a little bit better? I don't know, Bach. It seems like, again, anecdotally, other teams adjust better than Nebraska does. But I think you have to credit Tony White and the defense for at least trying to make some of those adjustments on that side of the ball.
Well, and I think too, you just read out the play drives. If you have 9 plays and 3 drives, you can't get too creative. If you're just not, you're trying this and you try that, and you're getting 2 or 3 yards here and there, and then getting pushed back. And you're just not a whole lot of creativity that can go into it. And I think too, again, a a lot of the plays kind of broke down into where there just wasn't anywhere to go. And so Purdy just kind of scrambled and couldn't really get anything near the sideline, whether it would lose a yard or gain a yard. And those, again, I think those are good plays for Purdy not to force it and get a turnover. But it's hard to kind of envision like, hey, you want to take a shot, but if it's not open, then you don't want to throw it. And and there was a few times as the game progressed too, where when Purdy was throwing it, it was into some pretty tight coverage. So, a lot of it, I think is just not there. We always kind of look at the quarterback. Sometimes the wide receivers need to get open. Sometimes the pressure, the protection needs to be better. And the pressure, well, I say that word for Nebraska too, at times was just not there on Mordecai. And that was a problem too. But yeah, I mean, it's tough to say with adjustments because I think that this offense is limited. So I don't know how many adjustments you can go to. And defensively, I mean, maybe you put like a spy on Mordecai at some point, but he's not traditionally that quarterback.
You shouldn't need to.
Right.
You really shouldn't need to spy Tanner Mordecai, but that's where we ended up. One segment to go. We'll put a bow on Nebraska's loss to Wisconsin. Any final thoughts you have, let us know on the stream, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, as well as the Starter Heyman text line, 402-464-5685. He's Bach. I'm Austin. We'll wrap up postgame next.
Nutrition Authority invites you to try Attack, which is an exciting pre-workout for athletes and gym enthusiasts who want the most out of their workouts. Attack can only be found at Nutrition Authority. Remember, when you want results, the solution is simple. Nutrition Authority. Stop in or check us out at mynutritionauthority.com.
It takes a great game plan to win a football game each week, and right now, it's time to plan a trip to get a new car at Mullen Motors. Just like on the football field, there's a wall of defense on the way to Mullen Motors. 48th Street is under construction from Layton all the way to Cornhusker Highway. But the lot at Mullen Motors is full of tons of great vehicles to drive home this fall for the ultimate touchdown. Mullen Motors, still open through road construction at 48th and Walker.
No taglines, just quality vehicles. Mullen Motors.
Is your backyard ready for fun with friends and family this fall? GE Landscape Supply has pavers and boulders, which are a great accent for any landscaping project. And you can find them at 6701 Cornhusker Highway. GE Landscape Supply sells to homeowners and contractors with a vast selection of landscaping and construction materials. And don't forget, they deliver anywhere, nearby or far away. Stop by at 6701 Cornhusker Highway from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday. Go to gelandscapesupply.com for more info or call 402-467-1627.
So, I just got the State Farm Personal Price Plan on my car insurance.
So you told your agent you play the bagpipes for your dog?
What? No, I didn't get that personal. My agent just helped me create an affordable price just for me. Okay, let me show you what I've been working on. Hey, Buster!
Call your local State Farm agent, Vinny Krekak, at 402-474-1173.
Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
Gray Diesel and Equipment Services is hiring and seeking motivated applicants. Gray offers a second-to-none benefit package that includes health, dental, vision, 401k, paid vacation, and paid holidays. They offer great pay and tuition reimbursement or a tool purchase program for qualified candidates. It's a fun, friendly team with lots of variety and work assignments, so there's something for everybody. View and apply for their job openings today at grayusa.com or visit them in person just off I-80 and North 56th Street. Come be a part of the Gray difference.
Experience the Landmark difference with the next level of dealer support. Landmark, your local John Deere dealer, continually works to have parts on hand the first time you walk in the door. Our internal route system means we can get the parts to you typically same or next day to keep you up and running. At Landmark, we understand time is money. Get more uptime with our after-hours parts and service support on the phone or in the field. Our sales, precision ag, parts, and service teams are ready to serve you this planning season. Stop by your local Landmark today to experience the Landmark difference.
The holidays are drawing closer, and there's not many things better than getting the gift of relaxation. Not just for yourself, but for anyone in your life. During November, for every service you get at the Body Shop, you get entered into their drawing for a free massage gift certificate equal to your last service. This goes all the way to the week before Christmas, so book your appointments now at thebodyshoplincoln.com and treat yourself and loved ones today. The Body Shop at 48th and A.
Elway Power Sports of Lincoln will have you scoring big on savings with up to $3,000 off CF Moto side-by-sides and ATVs. Whether you're looking for a work-tough U-Force or a performance-ready Z-Force, CF Moto has a machine made for you all under one roof at our new 27th and I-80 location. And don't miss our Black Saturday sales event on November 25th with doorbusters and specials throughout the store. Visit our website, elwaypslincoln.com for more details.
Winter is fast approaching. Have you winterized your sprinklers yet? If not, get it scheduled as soon as possible with Penner Sprinkler and Lawn before damage occurs that could turn an unfortunate winter into a rough spring ahead for your system. Plus, they are already scheduling installs for sprinkler systems for next year and all other lawn care needs. Call Penner Sprinkler and Lawn today at 402-413-1215. That's 402-413-1215. Penner Sprinkler and Lawn.
Jay Foreman Postgame Show. Sponsored by Tanner's Bar and Grill, Vinny Krekak, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, and Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical. On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Any final thoughts you have on post-game, let us know here. 402-464-5685. I'm Austin Norman. He's Jake Bachhoven. Let's go to the Starter Him and text line here. Kent, not feeling that great about things. He says, guys, Northwestern, with all their issues, a new coach 30 days before the season, they're in a bowl game. Nebraska is not. Rule has failed miserably. If the Northwestern coach is in Lincoln, we're going to a bowl. Guys, Nebraska is up 14-0 minutes into the game. They scored 3 more points. This is all about coaching. Matt Rule failed miserably. Bach, do you want to take that first? You want me to?
Go ahead.
Matt Rule will tell you it ultimately comes back to him. He'll do that. That's what the good coaches do. They take accountability. Pretending that David Braun would have this team in a bowl game, I can't say I agree. Did an admirable job at Northwestern, getting them to bowl eligibility. He did. Nobody predicted that Northwestern team to make a bowl game. More people predicted that Northwestern team to win 0 games than to win 3 or 4 games. And here they are at 6 and a chance to get to 7. It's a testament to them. I don't want to knock Matt Rule too much because think about the conversations we were having about this team before the year. Oh, Matt Rule's year ones are essentially write-offs. You know, you have to figure out what they have. And it's been terrible at Temple and Baylor. And okay, yeah, he says his talent is better here. And maybe it's like a year 2, but what does that really mean? We have to see it. Nebraska fans, be honest with yourself. If Bach and I sat here and told you at the beginning of the year that Nebraska was going to be 5-6 heading into its most emotionally charged game of the season with no other context, I bet at least half of you would take that. To take Iowa coming to your house a year after you beat them for a chance to go to a bowl game. You don't know what's on the line. You don't know injury situations for either side. But I bet at least half of the Husker fan base would, maybe somewhat begrudgingly, but still accept being 5-6 going into Iowa. Not exactly how you drew it up, maybe with context, but for now, you're 5-6. You still have an opportunity. Not all is lost, as disappointing as it is.
Yeah, I agree with you. Where Nebraska was, like, at the beginning of the season, where they are now. I know they had that run, right, where they won 5 of 6, and that's where you kind of elevated your expectations. But I did think, going into the year that they were going to have a heck of a time getting to a bowl game. And here we are. They've had a heck of a time getting there. Now, they've been close. I would have liked to have been wrong, and they would have won, a couple of these 3-point games here. But you have to remember, too, you pointed to it. You didn't hire Matt Rule for year 1. And nothing on his resume says you hire him for year 1. You hire him for year 3. And I think that there are a lot of things that are, the foundations being laid, that sort of thing. I feel pretty good about the long-term Matt Rule program that Nebraska has going, especially considering you can just see, you don't have to be a Nebraska expert. You can watch a game for a half and you can see there's some deficiencies on these teams. So, that's going to happen with most teams, and you're going to have to kind of fill the spots. And from one year to the next, they might change what that problem is. But for a program that's been down since 2016, we can't just act like Rule should be able to come in here, snap his fingers, and all of a sudden you're 8-4.
I'll phrase it this way. I don't want to tell anyone how to be a fan or how to view this season. I can only tell you how I view it. If you're going to tell me that Matt Rule has failed miserably, you're probably pointing to, look how mediocre the Big Ten West is. You should have beat Minnesota. Why weren't you able to capitalize on a year one like Colorado was? Michigan State, you missed an opportunity there. Maryland, probably more talented than you, but you had them on the ropes at home. You didn't take advantage. One of the worst Wisconsin teams we've seen in years. You were up 14-0 in the first 9 minutes on, and you weren't able to finish. If that you want to put that on coaching and say it's a miserable failure to lose those games, hard for me to push back because Nebraska had those opportunities. But for all of those people, there's some on the flip side too, Bach, where it's, hey, Nebraska is so beat up. Nebraska hasn't had a stable quarterback position. It's year one of a new scheme. They found ways to piece it together, and they've given themselves a shot at bowl eligibility. That's a big testament to coaching. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle for me.
Yeah, just bring out the turnover stat and throw it in between those folks, and they can have fun with that too.
They sure can. Well, it's been fun for us here all day. We've been with you for essentially 8 hours here, starting with pregame. Bach and I took you through some Husker hoops postgame. They won 84-63 over Oregon State. Let's end on that note. For Jay and Nick out on site, for AD, Raph, Farley, DP here in studio, Ben and Harrison. He's Jake Bachhoven. I'm Austin Norman. Full ticket weekends lineup for your Sunday tomorrow. Make sure you tune in, starting with Inside the Huddle tomorrow morning, all the way through In the Pocket tomorrow night. It's been fun. We'll talk to you throughout the weekend and next week.
The holidays are drawing closer, and there's not many things better than getting the gift of relaxation. Not just for yourself, but for anyone in your life. During November, for every service you